If you have ever felt like you are drowning in a sea of half-finished projects, unread emails, and a physical space that feels like it's closing in on you, despite owning every planner and productivity hack on the market, today's episode is your deep breath. We often think of organization as a set of rules that we have to follow, but for the ADHD brain, those rules can often lead to more shame than success. Welcome to Healthy Buzz, the podcast for women who are craving honest answers in a supported community. Hosted by Brandee, a certified nutrition therapy practitioner who believes your body isn't broken, but the narrative around women's health is. Each week, we're diving deep into holistic health topics, challenging the one-size-fits-all approach, and empowering you to trust your own informed intuition. Get ready to feel seen, supported, and seriously informed. This is Healthy Buzz, where collaboration meets unfiltered transparency in women's health. Today, I am joined by Megs Crawford, the founder of Organizing the ADHD Brain. Megs is here to show us that clutter isn't just about the pile of mail on your counter, it's a nervous system response. We're going to be discussing whole body organizing, why women often experience ADHD as a cycle of overwhelm rather than hyperactivity, and how to stop making half decisions that keep you stuck. This is about moving from the fixing your life to finally understanding your patterns. Megs is an ADHD coach and professional organizer based in Western Massachusetts. She works with clients around the world who just can't get a handle on their life, their stuff, or their time. After leaving the corporate world and navigating her own ADHD journey, Megs founded her company in 2023 with the whole body approach to organizing, one that goes far beyond the physical space to help people understand why they do what they do. With over 6,000 hours of coaching experience, ADHD, and PMP certifications, Megs brings a unique, structured, yet deeply human approach to helping people break the stuck cycle and create real, lasting change. She is the host of Organizing the ADHD Brain, a podcast that recently hit 100,000 downloads and is changing lives one micro movement of clarity at a time. Megs, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, I am so excited for this conversation because I find that a lot of women that I'm working with are in this perimenopausal phase of life, and a lot of these ADHD symptoms are coming more to the surface as their hormones are changing. So I think that this is going to really hit with my audience today. So I would love to start off by hearing a little bit more about your journey, your diagnosis with ADHD, and how this has evolved into now this amazing organization and podcasts that you have.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so fun to hear you read all the things that I've done. Oftentimes with ADHD, we don't think about everything we've done. We think everything, oh my gosh, what else do I need to do? So thank you so much for reading that out loud. As we talk about the journey, it's so funny to think back to where I started because I got my diagnosis when I was about 36 years old. So that would have been almost 4 years. I'm not quite there at the 40 mark yet. But I got the diagnosis because my therapist said, hey, I think that you could have ADHD. It could be beneficial for you to get a diagnosis. And I was like, well, doesn't everybody's brain work like this? And she's like, no. I'm like, well, that's really interesting. I started to talk to my neighbor about it, who has had ADHD their whole life, and his wife and their navigation through the whole process. And I ended up seeing a psychiatrist, and we had a whole conversation about what it means. I think the process took over an hour and a half, and all the boxes check ADHD. And yet, after that diagnosis, I went through a denial period of there's no way I've had ADHD my whole life. Are you kidding me? That's not something that happens. And yet, of course, we're seeing this happen all over the world now, right? Like people are getting diagnosis, people are starting to understand what ADHD truly means. And when I initially got the diagnosis, it was a lot of self-discovery. I was still working in the corporate world, but I also went through the process during that time of while I was decluttering my home. I actually decided to quit drinking. I also got bariatric surgery, and so I lost over 120 pounds. And so there was a lot of navigation in my life that I was trying to figure out. I decided to leave the corporate world after working with a career coach, and I wanted to become a professional organizer. At that point in time, I thought it was simply about creating these perfect spaces because that's what I wanted. I had this home that I had finally put together in a way that almost worked for me. There's always something that I was navigating, but decluttering my home became something that I was really confident at. but I started to understand ADHD from a new perspective when I launched my podcast and I started to interview all of the experts and started to understand my brain in a way that I never thought possible. So it's been a real journey. I did start in-person organizing and have evolved into a coaching business and a membership. And it's been a really neat journey to see all of the spaces that I've navigated, both positively and excitedly, but also truly uncomfortably at the same time.
That is like such a beautiful journey that you had. I think it's interesting when people get a diagnosis, sometimes they feel like this validation. And then other times it's like, now I have something else I need to fix. There's something like maybe wrong or broken with me. And it's not necessarily that when you're getting a diagnosis, especially with ADHD. I think it is meant to be like to give you this permission slip to have like, now I understand. Now I need to learn more. And you went on this huge self discovery journey during that process. And it sounds like you peeled back a ton of layers when it came to like your relationship with alcohol. It sounds like your relationship with your body and weight came to the surface as well. When somebody gets a diagnosis, what are like some of your suggestions for like taking that information and now what do we do with this information?
Whew. When you get a diagnosis, what I will tell you is it's almost like a mourning period that you must go through. This period of loss almost, because you start to realize everything you could have been if you had known sooner. You start to revisit so many of these aspects of your life that could have been explained if you only had known or had someone to support you through understanding yourself a little bit more. And so it is this period of truly understanding what could have been. And then as you allow yourself to go through those periods of mourning, and I truly encourage you to like cry about it, totally. Talk to your therapist. Talk about the experiences that you're like, holy fuck, this was ADHD the whole time. I used to hate doing homework, hated English and writing papers. And there was one time that I literally wrote and created and crafted for hours a note that said that my dog ate my homework. And the next day I turned that in. My teacher gave me a pass on it. She's like, yeah, but don't do this again. But I was enjoying that so much more than writing a stupid, I don't want to write a paper. But that made so much more sense as I started to understand. So once you go through that mourning period, the understanding of what could have been, you start to ask yourself, like, I can't go back and say, what if? There's no way I can go back and change the past. But I can say, what now? What do I do with this information now? Because at any time, we have the opportunity to craft a new life for ourselves and to start to understand what is the vision we want to achieve now? And now knowing this information, what do we get to do with it that allows us to work with ourselves instead of hitting walls wherever we try to grow? So I would just say sit with it, talk to someone, reach out to people, find community. I've been holding little ADHD community groups in my own community in person. And also I have a community where we meet on a regular basis too, but it's been really neat where people come and they're like, I didn't even know that other people struggled with this. And is that a thing? And we're just understanding things from a different perspective. And it's been a real gift. You're not alone out there, and that's huge.
Yes, I love that. I love that you have turned that from like a what if to what now? How can we now embrace this and like learn more? And I know that this is a lot of what your business is focused on. So, the whole body framework that you are really open about like talking about the whole body organizing. So, to somebody who may just be buying all the bins at Target and Bed Bath and Beyond. And at this point, is Bed Bath Beyond still a thing or did they close?
They still exist. My husband got a coupon the other day because I think there was another
Okay.
company that bought them. So ridiculous. But yes, Bed Bath& Beyond, they've got the bins.
The Container Store. I mean, literally, the Container Store is all about containers. So, what does it mean to organize the body and the nervous system alongside your physical space?
Oh my gosh, it's fascinating stuff. So, when I first started coaching and in person organizing, I thought it was just about putting things in places, mostly because that's how I navigated my own decluttering process in my home. It was more about forcing myself to do it and feeling like as soon as I got on this other side, it would be easier. Except that it's not. You tend to address clutter the same way unless you start to understand your reaction to it. So I started to teach people different things about clutter, like understanding boundaries, your boundaries on bringing things into the home, your boundaries on getting things out of the home and how to do it. And then I started to realize that so many of these different aspects that I was teaching related to literally everything else in our lives. If someone's not struggling with clutter in their lives, they're struggling with clutter in a more not so physical space, like a metaphysical space in their schedules or in their to-do list or in their trying to relive the past and correct it, the rumination that is involved, right? I call this mental litigation, where I'm not only the lawyer, the prosecutor, I'm the defendant, and then I'm also the judge, and none of us win. Like it just goes around and around and around in a circle. So as I started to navigate this, I'm interviewing experts at the same time. I'm helping people understand their clutter. I then started to realize that this process, no matter where you start, right? Like if you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to declutter, if you're trying to get your finances in order, the process is the same, but it's about how you react to each and every one of these aspects. And so the nervous system comes up in regulation work because when you react to your clutter, you do it in one of four ways. You fight it. Some people call it angry cleaning. I was an angry cleaner for a really long time. Some people run away from it, right? You fly away, you avoid it, or you stare at it like a deer in headlights. You're like, holy crap, what do I do with all of this? Or you appease, you people please. And this is more like people are coming over. I'm going to throw all this crap in a room and I'm going to shut the door and hope for the best. And they're not going to actually see who I really am. And that will be better for the moment. But in reality, all of these ways we're handling it keeps us stuck because we're not addressing what's actually driving this fear in us, because all of this is a reaction to this danger that the clutter is causing, right? And so we see it, we're like, danger, and our body reacts. So this is a way for us to start to understand our patterns in the way that says, oh, I see that I am reacting in a way that it feels like I need to try to keep myself safe by fighting it, by running away from it, by staring at it and not doing a damn thing, or by people pleasing in the end. But when you start to notice these different things and start to understand that there's an underlying cause to why you react this way, it helps you understand that, okay, this is not actually danger. And I can start to train my brain, or just even remind my brain that this is safe. I'm not being chased by a bear. And I can handle this. But it's about coming from your amygdala, right? Is back in here. I'm not a neuroscientist. I am a coach, but I do know where different parts of the brain are, the important ones for my coaching program.
Yes.
But like your amygdala is back here, right? You're not in your conscious brain. And when you're not in your conscious brain, your brain is like, I get to take over. What you want to do is come back up here and you get to practice being conscious so that you can make the next right decision for you to get out of that stuck loop. And so that's where the whole body organizing comes in. So I recognize this more and more in myself. We just moved from Colorado to Massachusetts. As a professional organizer, I know how to do all the steps. I know how to put things in places. I know how to buy the bins and label them, right? I know how to make it pretty. But the reality is that I do still have ADHD. And so when there's a lot of transformation happening, when there's a lot of life happening, and I have to consciously think about so much because so much of it is not autopilot, then there's so much of it that gets put on the back burner. And this time around, I was able to give myself credit for that and say, oh, this is just data. This is data that is helping me understand that I am overwhelmed right now. And it's okay that my home is not perfect, because that's not what this stage of life is actually calling for. It's calling for me to understand what's going on and understand how to take care of myself in these more difficult and uncomfortable moments. And so, yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
I love this. I find, this does cross over a lot with the work that I do with nutrition therapy, right? Like we have our automatic responses to different foods, to the way that we think about our body as well. And we can get stuck in that cycle of like, this is how we respond to this situation every time. And those patterns often are not in alignment with what our goal is. The brain, like you said, takes over. Our ego takes over. And it's like, nope, this is how we stay comfortable in this little space. If we keep responding the same way, we know what the outcome is going to be. And so we're just going to keep responding that same way. Whereas if we try something different, that sends our nervous system into this like, what the fuck is happening here?
Yeah.
And we get frozen in it and we're like, oh, I can't do that. That I'm doing it wrong. I'm doing it wrong. And so then we go back to our default mode, which are the four different ones that you talked about. Like what feels comfortable and safe in your body is not always in alignment with what you actually want at the end of the day. So it's that nervous system regulation that has to happen to understand, how do I get to the next step? How do I get out of this loop that I'm stuck in? And how do I respond versus just keep reacting on this autopilot?
Yes. And it's so cool because whether you start there with the nutrition piece or start with clutter, or like I said before, finance, it's all the same, right? Like you start to recognize how you're responding to things. The only thing you can't do is all of that at once. You can't be
Right.
working on your finance journey and then also decluttering and fixing that, right? Like fix, I say lightly, because we're not fixing anything. We're recognizing and we're getting out of that comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about that, the overwhelm. So with ADHD, this can often look like a very quiet and crushing cycle of overwhelm rather than the stereotypical like fidgetiness that we think of ADHD, right? What are the invisible symptoms women should be looking for that are actually a signal of an ADHD brain?
Without being a doctor, of course, I'm not diagnosing anyone, but I would encourage you to talk to someone who can support you through this. Is starting to understand your overwhelm as more data, as I mentioned earlier, versus being a character flaw. So oftentimes we equate us dropping the ball with being something wrong with us, with there being something wrong with us. So many women don't get diagnosed until they have kids. So they've been able to survive by keeping everything up here for the most part until they have kids. And now there are so many additional hormones that are on top of it. They're trying to figure out how to navigate a kid's schedule while also taking care of themselves, while also trying to be a good wife and possibly go back to work if that's part of their life as well. So then when we fail at it, it's like we are personally responsible. And I can't believe we can't do all of these things that we've set out to do. But part of that overwhelm comes from trying to keep everything up here. And I say that because so many of my clients, when they come to me, that's where their to-do list lives. The to-do list is living up here. They're getting things done, but they're staying stuck because they don't have, anything to come back to say, oh, I did all of this. I can be proud of myself for it. So it's starting to recognize that this overwhelm might be because you're trying to keep too much in your brain and it is circling and circling and circling. That might not have anything to do with ADHD, but just the present circumstances of the world that we live in and what's expected of us as women. So I'm going to put that out there first. Where it may become ADHD is also in time blindness, where we tend to either overestimate the amount of time something is going to take, or we underestimate the amount of time something is going to take. I mean, if you're listening, raise your hand if you think everything is right around 15 minutes away and you just need to leave exactly 15 minutes from the time you leave there. But that's another thing that we struggle with is executive function, like backing up the steps. Like if I have to be somewhere at 4, I actually need to check the traffic. How long is it actually going to take me to get there? And if it's 25 minutes, could I hit traffic? How much time do I want to bake in for that? So now I'm leaving in 30 minutes earlier, but then I have to collect everything that I need. So my regular checklist is phone, wallet, keys before I leave the house. But what if I also have to bring children? Do they need to drink water and to also have food? And like, will that help me? So back it up. And then how long is it going to take me to get ready? So instead of leaving right at the 30-minute mark, it actually takes us way longer to prepare to leave the home. And all of that executive function, right? Like those logical step-by-step processes is something that we struggle with. And so that's part of our logical brain, our prefrontal cortex, and the way that our brain communicates, really. It's the way that we break down steps, but there's so much more to it. The working memory is part of our executive function. Our time blindness is part of our executive function. And then on top of that is emotional regulation. That is another thing that we all struggle with. Is we have really big emotions. My daughter is 8 and she has ADHD. One thing I love about discovering this for myself and understanding my own brain is I can help her understand hers. So when she has a hard day, like yesterday, we were driving home from dance And she was saying that she just doesn't understand why her dance teacher doesn't remember what it's like to be a kid. Like, doesn't she remember what it's like to be a kid? She was so annoyed, right? And I was like, oh, well, maybe you could ask her that one day. And she just started crying. She was like, why would you even suggest that? Right? She was just overwhelmed with emotion. And then she said, I just don't know why I'm so sad right now and why I'm crying. But it was overwhelming. And then we got home, and all in all, she's going from crying and then laughing and then crying. And then she's like, Mom, I don't know what to do with all of these emotions. It's fascinating to hear her speak about this because as a child, I would never have been able to. Of course, like this is the evolution that we are as a species, being able to speak to what's happening and why we're doing it. But emotional regulation is a huge aspect of ADHD, and being able to understand again our reactions to things, why we're choosing to react. Choosing, I say that lightly. We're not choosing to do anything. We're reacting the way that we're reacting, but understanding what's going on there and how much power we do have to be in control of some of that and how much we don't. And so those are just, some of the things that come up, even just like showing up differently every day. Sometimes we have the most incredible days and you're like, I'm a fucking powerhouse. Like I can do literally anything. And then the next day, it's like the version of you that existed the day before never, ever existed. I don't understand how to do life. Why can't I do these things? And so it's just like ebbs and flows and hormones. And, part of it is being a woman, and part of it is these ADHD symptoms and the fact that they show up differently and even more so when we get our period. So, like, thank you. I would say those are some of the nuts and bolts of it, just touching on the surface.
Yeah. I find too, with a lot of my audience, they are experiencing perimenopause. And just like you said, with having children, the shifts in the hormones, again, we're going through another huge hormonal shift where we have less estrogen. That way affects our cognitive function. And so, like, having these big shifts is when more women are like noticing the ADHD symptoms coming up, and what they were able to manage before all of a sudden becomes like, oh my gosh, why am I having such a hard time doing these things that were so easy for me before? And so I think it's, again, like not going down that like shame spiral with it, but allowing yourself and exploring and having the conversations with people who are like the experts in these fields to be like, hey, I feel like I'm having these symptoms come up. Could I potentially be dealing with ADHD? If so, what type of support do you need in that situation?
Absolutely. Yeah. Talk about it. Because the more you talk about it, the more you'll start to understand some of the behaviors.
Hey, Healthy Buzz community. Have you been curious about using a continuous glucose monitor to unlock powerful insights to your metabolic health? Imagine seeing in real time how your body responds to different meals, different workouts, and also the effects of stress. Now, what if you could experience those benefits without being locked into any type of recurring subscription like some of the other continuous glucose monitor programs out there? With my Blood Sugar Savvy course, you'll get exactly that. You'll receive access to 7 engaging learning modules, 2 continuous glucose monitors to start your wellness journey, plus 4 weekly one-on-one video strategy sessions with me where I'll personally guide you to understanding your CGM data. We'll work together to identify your unique blood sugar patterns and create customized strategies for better energy, mood, and overall well-being. Oh, and by the way, this is especially crucial during your peri and postmenopausal years. Blood Sugar Savvy is about understanding your body on a deeper level, implementing practical strategies, and gaining sustainable knowledge to support your overall health and wellness. Ready to get Blood Sugar Savvy and take control of your metabolic health? Healthy Buzz listeners can save $30 simply by using the code BUZZ at checkout. Your personalized blood sugar journey starts now. So let's talk about like, why does it feel physiologically impossible for someone with an unregulated nervous system to just get organized? How does that shame act as a biological brake on our ability to actually take action?
Oh, wow. That's a deep question. I would say the biggest thing that comes up is that if we're dysregulated, right, we're acting from a fight or flight response, and we're acting from a place that doesn't allow us to make the next logical decision. We're acting from a place of just trying to keep ourselves comfortable, which we're just trying to think of like, what could I do real fast to make this all go away? It's like this all or nothing response. So I'm either going to stop my life for an entire week or for an entire weekend, even. I'm going to get organized and then everything will be okay. So that is part of the problem right there is we feel like we need to stop our lives in order to do that. And most of the time we're doing that because every time we have actually gotten into an organizing project is we've emptied an entire closet. And it actually took a couple hours to do that. And now we're sitting on the floor in a pile of all of our stuff. Maybe we're wearing half of it because we got excited about the things we were finding. But now we're so tired and overwhelmed because it's actually a really emotional process to make decisions and to decide where things go. So we remember that overwhelm and we think that the only way to get into it is actually to do it all at once. We have what's kind of like writing a paper, right? In college, I would avoid writing a paper until the very last minute. And then I would get into it and I would be like, oh my God, there's so much more to this. I bet that this paper would be so much better if I actually had given myself time to work on it. But lack of time estimation, right? I'm not thinking about that. Plus, it's something I don't want to do. So I'm going to avoid it until the last minute until I feel like I have no choice. And then I'm going to get into it. And then I'm going to try to do it all at once, hoping for the best. And so that's what most of us have done our lives is hope for the best. And so in some cases, we are not starting from scratch, right? Because we are doing some of these projects and we're getting into them and we are making a little bit of change, but most of the time, we've come up with this elaborate process in our head because our brains are so brilliant. We've tried to think ahead for every possible scenario. We put together a complicated system and then we forget to communicate it to anyone, including ourselves, because we don't write it down. And then it fails. And then we think that we are personal failures because nothing ever sticks. And so this comes from a dysregulated space. I need to attack it. I need to fight it. I need to get all my clutter. Like I need to burn it all down. And when I talk about dysregulated, again, I'm just talking about like this is your reptilian brain, as they say. You're coming from a place that you're just trying to keep yourself comfortable. It's not something that you want to have to do. But the truth is that organizing is actually something that should just be incorporated into our day-to-day lives, if we can remember. I also say that, and I'm hearing myself say that, and I'm like, oh my God, don't run away because I said that. I hear it and I'm like, ooh, that's annoying to me too. But it's more like getting back to the process a little bit quicker and also allowing it to be really, really easy. I think about James Clear in this in Atomic Habits and making 1% changes. And one thing I'm doing in my community this month is giving them little tasks around the house to go and see your reactions to things and see if you can do these things. And so one of them, the first one today was go to your junk drawer and find one thing you can throw away and then throw it away. I took a picture of mine and I was like, I must do everything right now. That was my reaction to it. I was like, interesting. Now, there wasn't a lot in there and it actually only took me about 2 minutes to go through it. So I'm like, I feel okay doing this. This isn't keeping me stuck. This is moving me forward because I'm getting my eyes on things here. And it was telling to me, I also saw that I had Band-Aids in there and I was like, I would have never come here to look for Band-Aids. Why do I have Band-Aids in here? So I went and put them away, which was really neat. So part of it is simply just getting your eyes on the things that you haven't gotten your eyes on for a really long time. A lot of it is just where we are currently in our reactions to things and what we think we need to do in order to solve it. But we're not solving anything. We're simply understanding how to work with our current situation so we can change the data. It all comes back to that data again. It's not about you. You're not a personal failing. Like clutter itself is morally neutral, right? It doesn't mean you're a good or a bad person. In fact, that's probably dysregulated thinking too. You're simply a human who has lived a life and this is where you are. So what do we do with it now?
Yeah. I think of that often for myself as I'm like doing something and I'm like, I don't want to like walk out to the shed and put this away in the shed. And so then it can pile up on the counter by the back door. And it's like, how many days am I going to walk beside this and see it and be irritated by the fact that it's still on the counter there when it literally takes less than a minute to walk out to the shed to put it away in its right spot. So when I catch myself in that, I'm like, I have to like pause and be like, future Brandee is going to be really glad that I did this, that I took the 1 minute to do this thing that does not take a lot of time. So I'm going to just do it now instead of like shoving it somewhere where it doesn't belong. I'm not saying that I'm perfect by any means, but like sometimes I have to really pause and be like, why am I delaying doing this when I can just do this right now? I have the capacity. It doesn't take as long as my brain is telling me it's going to take.
Sometimes crossing that barrier, that threshold of going outside or going to a different level of the house, or even going to a different level that you have to open a door to get to, for some reason, that's such a huge barrier. I do the same thing. I make a bargain with myself, but I've noticed, right? Part of it is this is just the way that we've done something. And so we don't notice that we do it, but you're noticing, which is so cool. I do that with myself too. And sometimes I win where I'm doing it, and sometimes I don't, where I'm putting it on the stairs. In fact, the other day I was walking up the stairs and I passed something that needed to go upstairs. And I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this right now. I turned around on the stairs to go back down and get the thing that was sitting on the bottom of the stairs. Because normally when I'm halfway up, I'm like, I don't have time to go back down and get the thing. But that's the thing too, is like, that belief that we don't have time, that is a dysregulated belief. Who says, right? Like, why does everything have to be in a rush? I took Jenna Free's course on regulation, and it was really, really eye opening. I had her on the podcast when I first started podcasting, and I took her 8-week course, and it was just fascinating. Listening to her and understanding the way that we react to everything has really supported my own understanding of not only my coaching, but how I approach life. And the way that we say, I'm just going to put this here for now, it's another fight or flight response. Like, oh, I'm going to avoid this right now because it's uncomfortable. This is safer to just put it here. I'm doing something, right? But it does create more work for me later. Whereas if I just did it, it would be done. But it's like really making that bargain with yourself, but coming back and just reminding your body, your brain, like, it's actually safe to do this right now. And I can, even if it's a non-preferred task, I can move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about a concept that you discuss a lot, and the concept of half decisions. So, can you explain the difference between deciding to clean the kitchen and committing to the identity of change? Like, why is the latter the only one that actually sticks?
The concept of full decisions and half decisions. So, a full decision is making a decision to do something, or a full decision on what to do with the item or the task, like cleaning the kitchen. I would say making a change is a full decision in that, like, you know that you want this vision. You know where you're headed and you want to take steps to get there, but it's more about making full decisions on a daily basis that will allow you to get there, because you're going to show up differently on a regular basis. So, this is my water bottle, and I'm going to ask it, where would I go to look for this if I were trying to find it? Now, this just stays with me on a regular basis. So, I'm not actually going to put it anywhere. My full decision is that it stays with me wherever I go, right? This tissue, I could leave this here, but my full decision is I'm going to clean up this space. When I'm done, I'm going to go and throw this in the trash. It's about a piece of mail. I'm going to get the mail, I'm going to bring it inside, and I'm going to make a full decision on every single thing that's in these envelopes, right? Like, oh, this is a credit card offer. I do not want this. I can throw it away right away. This is a bill. I get these bills online. This is something I don't need to keep. I am going to throw it away right away, right? But like, those little things add up, and it makes us feel like we have to make all of these decisions at once. But the only way we can move forward is by making a series of full decisions on one item at a time. And it doesn't look the same for everyone. It comes back to asking, what do I want? Oftentimes we're so worried about, what should I do? What will my mother think? What will my dead great grandmother think? What will Instagram think? Will the world cancel me if I do this? What will it mean on my impact to the world, right? Am I recycling appropriately enough, right? What do I want to do is what we need to get used to asking ourselves, and then coming to the full decision piece. And most of the time it's, am I keeping this? Am I donating it? Am I throwing it away? Recycling. However you decide to do that. But sometimes it can be more complicated than that. Sometimes it is something that we'd like to use, and we need to see if it's something that we will actually use. So my full decision is to get it out of the back of this cabinet that it's been hiding in for years, and I'm going to put it in a place that I'm going to see if it's something I can incorporate into my life right now. Because right now it is easier than ever to buy crap, to buy everything. Like, most of us have some genuinely really cool shit. And we don't think about the time it's going to take to actually implement navigating how to use any of these things, or planning the time to use these things with our kids, or actually getting them out of their box. And so we order the stuff because we have FOMO and we feel like it's going to make us feel better, but then it just sits there. And because we haven't figured out how to put things in places, a lot of the time it simply just accumulates. But then because it's accumulating, we feel like we don't want to let any of it go because we feel like we've wasted our money on it. So we feel like we need to recoup some of those funds, but then we also don't want to recycle or give it to Goodwill because Goodwill is bad and all of these other things, right? So like, not only are we not letting go, but we're buying more shit and then we're not using any of it or putting it in a place. And so that is the stuck cycle. And that's a lot of what I talk about too, is like, it's not just that we can't let go or we don't know how to declutter. It's that like this cycle is perpetuating itself on all of these different sides. And it's fascinating how it shows up. So full decisions show up in what we're buying. Okay, I want new clothes. I want new clothes for my business. I want new clothes for my kids. It's about to be summer and they grow every year. They make us buy new clothes. So, in order to make a full decision, I am going to look at the clothes that they have right now before I decide what we're going to buy. I say that. And I also went to Marshall's yesterday and got them really cute dresses. So, like, yes, I do the first thing, but I also know and I feel confident enough to do that because I'm constantly looking at what they have every couple months or so and letting go of the things that they don't want. So, like, it's not a perfect thing. And I want to point that out too. Just because I'm saying it in a perfect way on a podcast doesn't mean that it looks perfect in your reality and your life. It means that you're practicing making a full decision so that you can stop the cycle. But then it comes back to, do I even have enough hangers to hang up their clothes or to put them in their drawers? Are their drawers overflowing right now? Well, then naturally it's going to be way more hard for us to put away their clothes, which makes laundry even more difficult, right? When we have to shove things in and then we can't find anything. Oh my God, it's exhausting. But then the letting go piece of it, well, I don't want to donate or I don't want to contribute. There's too many clothes in the world already. But the thing is that one of the things that keeps us stuck and also not as, I guess, ecologically friendly to our planet is because we don't even know what we already have. So we keep buying new shit, expecting it to make us happy, and we don't let go of anything. This is a whole nother podcast, but I have this belief that like we all have enough stuff in our homes based on what I've seen and based on the amount of professional organizers out there that we could all support one another without ever having to go shopping again. We could save a lot of money by supporting one another. There was this store that was founded. It's like a give things for free and come and take things for free. I think I saw it on TikTok, but it operates perfectly because people come and drop off and it's run by the community. So people take care of it because they know as a community they need to uphold its cleanliness and people are able to come and take things when they need it. And it works. Anyway, so that's just this other aspect of things, but full decisions are so powerful and can be really, really difficult if we're so used to trying to think about what everyone else needs from us. My reaction to things is being a people pleaser. My whole life, I have shown up for others. I'm like, oh, is this what you need from me? I know exactly how to show up and be that. And so what I have navigated since getting my own diagnosis is understanding that. Like, where does people pleasing serve me and where is it keeping me stuck? Because it's still me. I still love making people feel loved and feel like a part of this world. And I also don't need to change who I am to meet their needs. Part of that is understanding who the hell am I?
I love that. And I think I need to embrace that more, especially when I think about planning a trip. Oh my gosh. I will have 20 different like lodging options at a minimum for one place that we might be staying if we're going on a week and we're going to stay at two places. I'm like, okay, we have 20. We need to narrow it down. I need somebody else to look at this and make the decision. And then they decide, and I'm like, no, I don't like that option. I want this one instead. And so I'm like in this constant like half decision world for way too long, and I'm letting it take up way too much space in my brain. It was really interesting because we went on a ski trip with our friends up to Whistler. And my friend was like, we decided on a date. She was like, these are the dates we're going to go. I'm like, cool, sounds good. And within a half hour, she's like, okay, this place or this place. I'm like, oh, I started looking and I started favoriting all these places. She's like, which one of these two? I'm like, I like this one. She's like, okay, booked it, done. And I was like, that happened so fast. What did I miss? Then I had this like panic of like, I'm missing out on the best place to stay. And is this going to be the right place? Like, I need to stop with that because I'm just getting in my head way too much. And like, I really need to grasp this whole like full decision versus these half decisions. And it's going to free up so much more of my brain's power and space. I'm spending too much time thinking about too many things for too long.
Oh my gosh, preach, woman. You are so not alone. And like, I've talked to multiple people over the last couple months about just deciding on a dishwasher and then other people on a cardboard box, right? Like, what do I do with this? Like, what if I could use this?
Some boxes are really great though. And you get that box, you're like, this is the perfect box. I need to save this for something because it's going to be useful. No, I need to let that box go. There'll be another perfect box.
Yes. What's fascinating for me, I actually had one of those boxes. I put it down in the basement because I was like, I could use this for wrapping Christmas gifts. And then this week, I talked to 2 clients about cardboard boxes and keeping them and throwing them away. The next day, I went down and I saw that box and I was like, well, look at that. And I picked it up and I recycled it. And this is where community comes in handy, right? Because even though I teach this, even though I help people work through this, it is different to simply teach it versus having it reflected back to you as well. And so that's why I do believe coaches need coaches and we all support one another in community. But I think that's huge. And that's where the self-trust comes in. That's part of my mission statement and vision is really helping people with ADHD build the self-trust to know that they can make decisions. You're going to be okay. Whatever decision you make is actually going to be the best one for you. What helps me make decisions and what I work through with my clients is knowing that vision. The vision, not only in what your goal is or what you're trying to achieve, but like, what's the vision in the dishwasher, so to speak? What's the most important thing to you? Like my client said to me the other day, she's like, well, it's really important that it dries really well. I was like, cool. I would have never thought about that. To me, the drying component like never has come up for me. So I'm like, that's so interesting to me. And when it comes to a vacation, do you want to be on a place where it's like super quiet, no kids? Or do you want to be in a place where you have a pool that's outside your back patio? You get to decide. And then from there, make the decision. It's not as easy as that, right? Like, so again, it's just about saying like, okay, this is what I want, but then trusting that it could actually happen that way is so interesting because oftentimes we then will come up with all the reasons why we can't actually get to the thing that we want. And then we hold ourselves back because we're like, well, that's not possible, right? Because we've never allowed ourselves to believe that these choices we make can help us get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about micro moments of clarity. How can a woman who feels like she's in this constant fog learn how to use these 5-minute windows of clarity without feeling like she has to overhaul her entire life all at once?
Practice. That's it. I think I read an article earlier in the year. This gentleman named Eli Sussman, and he's writing a book right now called Micro Practices. And I was like, that's so interesting. And I started following him on LinkedIn, and he's got some great little blurbs out there talking about how to show up. And actually, it's much easier to show up in a 5-minute or even less window than it is to show up for an hour at a time. But also, we sometimes equate the amount of time we spend on something with value. So I know I used to avoid going to the gym at all if I couldn't spend 1 to 2 hours there. I would avoid going at all if I didn't have like this elaborate system to go through and I wasn't perfect at it right away. But actually, it's the practice of just getting to the task. And the easier you allow it to be, then the easier it will be going forward. So I'm going to tell you a story, and I'm also going to tell you what it means. Like to practice simply just means to notice. Notice the things you want to change. Notice the way that you're reacting to clutter. Your little window of opportunity here is when you're noticing, take a deep breath. And remind yourself that you can actually handle this. Right? There's the practice right there. What I started doing recently to practice is we're about to move again. So where we're at right now is a temporary living space. And when we first moved in, we sold most of our stuff. That's a whole nother story, but we have not a lot of things here, but we do have a few boxes. Like we had Christmas stuff, we had decorations, we had things that would still make us feel like home without all of the stuff that we're used to. So every time I go down in the basement to do a load of laundry, I told myself I just need to touch the area that my stuff is in. And I don't have to know what I'm doing. I'm just going to go over there. I'm going to pick something up and I'm going to make a decision on it. And so The first thing I did was actually look at the box that had the Christmas tree in it. And I was like, what's in here? And I opened it up. It had a Christmas tree in it. And I'm like, I'm going to label this so that we know that the Christmas tree is in here. Why didn't I do that at Christmas time? I don't know. That would be my recommendation to do that. But anyway, that's what's happening. Then the next time I went in there, I got my eyes on the actual Christmas box and I was like, oh, there's a couple loose ends here. And I just started putting those away. And then I stuck it on top of the Christmas tree and I started putting things in the corner. And I'm like, cool, that's enough. I'm going to walk away. Through getting down there in 5 minutes a day, I swear, not even more than that, we're almost fully packed down there. Whenever I go down there, it's a new little thing. I'm like, cool, that's done. I'm going to walk away. And it almost feels like I'm like, I don't even know what else to do right here, but I don't have to know. I get to walk away. I don't have to think of anything else because I'm just letting it be easy. And so that's the practice, is showing up and doing one thing, because we have practiced not doing a damn thing for a really long time. And that's not working. The all or nothing is not working. And so if you can just let it be easy. I even did it in my business the other day. Like, I have a community and I'm always looking for ways to grow it, but it feels like this big project, right? I know my brain will look at this from an all or nothing perspective, but I have on my little project management thing that came up, it was like, go and fill out this document from this video you watched months ago. And I was like, I don't want to do that. That looks awful. I'm going to avoid that for the rest of my life, right? But I was like, what if I just did 5 minutes? What would that look like? So I did. And guess who moved forward? This lady right here. So, like, I can say that I worked on that even if it was for 5 minutes. So letting it be easy. And then coming back to, like, I can't do this in every aspect of my life. I can't be trying to change everything all at once. When everything is important, nothing is important, but I am allowed to practice in different ways. When I don't go to yoga one day because I love going and practicing yoga, then I do this little green armband and I do 10 reps and that's enough. Then I get to stop. That's fine. I've done my strength training for the day and I get to call it that, because that is what matters. And that's amazing. So show up for yourself. I say that lightly because it's not going to look the same on a regular basis. Like on a day like today, I'm like, heck yeah, I'll show up for myself. But on a day where I'm doubting my abilities and my brain is telling me stories about who I am that are not true, but I believe them, then I've got to see, how could I show up for myself today in even the smallest way?
Yes, I love that. I talk with my clients a lot about, we need to lower the bar to make some of the things that you want to do achievable, because a lot of women are operating from this place of the all or nothing and the I need to be type A, I need to check all these boxes. And I'm like, your brain does not like that at the end of the day, especially if you miss one of the steps and you don't check a box. And then you're like, well, fuck this. I fucked up. So now I'm a failure and nothing matters anymore. But if we like zoom out a little bit and look at the whole big picture of like, what are these little moments of clarity that you can have? How can we break this down into something very bite-sized, something that feels very attainable, that you can high five yourself and be like, I did that. Took me 5 minutes. I gave myself 5 minutes to work on this. And when that timer went off, if you set a timer, whatever that looks like, then I was able to walk away. I did something for myself to help move the needle forward, to help me get to my goal. And then I can be like, okay, I did that. And the next time you come back to that form or whatever it may be that you need to continue to work on, it's not going to feel as daunting because, hey, my brain experienced it and it wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. So now I can do it again. And then that's that practice, right? You keep practicing, you keep trying, you keep showing up. Not every day is going to be perfect. There's going to be some days that look like a failure to your brain, but it's not a failure because you still tried. It becomes more of a habit then, instead of like this daunting task or chore of needing to do all the things at one time.
Exactly. Like all of this, it gets easier the more you practice, but it is uncomfortable. Even the good things are uncomfortable, and we have to calibrate to this new level of even just saying it's okay. It is okay to be here, and I'm going to level up. I'm just a little uncomfortable for the moment.
All right. Well, this was such a great conversation. I really loved it. I found it to be really impactful. I'm going to commit to making more full decisions in my life. It's going to be a baby step for sure, but I feel like it's going to bring me a lot more clarity. It's going to bring me a lot more feeling empowered that I am making the right decision when I make these full decisions versus half decisions. So I know that you have a freebie for our listeners. Could you tell us a little bit more about the dopamine menu?
Oh, yeah. So I created this dopamine menu. It was this buzzword going around for a little while, but I love this idea. I found that whenever I had a window of time that I wanted to do something fun, I could never figure out what I wanted to do. I was like, oh, there's nothing I want to do. There's nothing I can do that is fun. But the idea of a dopamine menu is having a list of things that are fun that you can go to remind you that life is worth living and you're allowed to experience this joy. So there's things like appetizers where you can simply just walk outside for a couple moments and take a deep breath. Oh, like just really enjoy some nature. It could be cuddling with your cat and enjoying a little like nervous system relaxation with a partner in a cat, right? Or it could be even just having a conversation with a friend and calling them up and allowing that to be a part of your day. So, thinking about what fills you up, there's the more main meal attractions, right? The things that maybe you take an hour-long bath. Maybe that is your jam. Maybe you get yourself a shower steamer and like that's something that you truly enjoy. Maybe it's even just planning a vacation or a concert, doing something bigger like that. There's all different categories that you can play around with. You can use AI to come up with more options. There's some options. I believe when you get the download, I will walk you through it in a video. So that way it's easy to follow along and get an idea of how to craft yours. While I give you a template and some ideas, you can make your own. Like you could just put it on a piece of paper. You don't have to print it out. If you don't have a printer, don't let that be the barrier. Put down some really fun things and put them on your wall, on your fridge, someplace that you'll see it, maybe with a sticker or two to remind you, like, these are the fun things. But what that does is when you're experiencing joy alongside of your life, it promotes motivation. Right? Like you start, you're like, oh, this is good. This is good dopamine, like the good stuff that allows you to feel motivated to do the other stuff in life versus, like being on your phone, which often drains you because you're scanning. Oh my God, literally the world is coming at you and putting you in this state of stress you don't even realize. So while it is dopamine inducing, a client used the word dirty dopamine recently. And it's like,
Ooh, I like
oh,
that.
it's so real. It's so
Yes.
dirty. So just like coming back to the real life connection things. And that's something that I'm working on right now is I say connection over escape quite a lot in my life right now. And that is what I am practicing is connection over escape.
Awesome. Amazing. So, how can people connect with you? Where can they find you?
Yeah. So if you go to my website, it's organizinganadhdbrain.com, or you can email me, Megs at organizinganadhdbrain.com. Listen to the podcast. It's Organizing an ADHD Brain on anywhere you listen to podcasts. You might find me on social media, but I tend to not exist on social media because of what I just told you. My intention is connection over escape.
All right, amazing. Well, everybody go listen to her podcast. I think it's going to be full of really great information for everybody who's navigating an ADHD brain, or if you're not even, you're going to still find really great benefit from everything that she shares and the people she interviews. Thanks so much for being here, Meg.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Healthy Buzz. I hope this conversation has left you feeling seen, supported, and ready to take the next step in your health journey. Love what you heard? Make sure you subscribe to Healthy Buzz so you never miss an honest conversation. And if you found this valuable, please take a moment to leave a review. I truly appreciate it. For exclusive weekly tips and holistic strategies, be sure to subscribe to my weekly newsletter. The link is in the show notes. Remember, this isn't just nutrition, it's permission to trust your body. I'll catch you on the next episode of Healthy Buzz.